everyone. Just wanted to jump in real quick before we get started and say a quick thank you to all my patrons on Patreon. Thank you for supporting this class, and I look forward to creating new videos and new content with your support. So thank you very much. Your name should be appearing in this general area right now. Thanks. So if you're just tuning in, you're missing a really awesome conversation that we just had about writing and orthography and ancient Egyptian and group writing. So, you know, if you're just watching the videos, consider coming to the classes so you get to hear all that kind of stuff. But now it's time to get to Coptic. Our exercises, we'll make them a little bigger. Why not? So I'll go ahead and put this apology at the beginning. So it's at the beginning of the video too. So we just moved to a new apartment and we don't actually have control over our internet service. It was selected by our landlord. So we are trying to get a faster internet speed, even if that means paying more. It inevitably means paying more, but we're going to do that. But we just moved here, so we haven't done that yet. We actually just discovered that it's not fast enough for multiple Zoom meetings at the same time. So if my internet is choppy or slow in this video, I apologize in advance. Hopefully it will only happen this one time. Anyway. Okay, so on that note, I see Moaz, Ralph, Hytham, and Eric. I'm gonna go ahead and write your names down. So I mean, it's only 4 people, but I'm so bad at keeping the order straight. If I don't write your names down, I'll like end up skipping people and stuff, and that's no good. Okay, so that was Ralph, Hytham, and Eric. Okay, so Moaz, I guess you're first. There are 4 of us. There are, sorry, how many? 58 minus 35 is 23, and then plus 1 because the fence post problem is 24, I think. 4 of us, so everyone will get 6. So I'll do them in groups of 3s, and hopefully that will work out evenly when we get to the end. So Moaz, do you want to take 35 through 37?
Sure. Atech rompe woh ijum pvema. So the dove settled upon the platform.
Good, yeah. I talked a little bit about woh. How do you translate the word woh into English?
I mean, it can come like placed or settled, or like there's no direct translation, I guess.
Yeah, it's really like you need about 20 words in English to actually capture the meaning of this word in Coptic. What if you were to use a circumlocution, like if you were to use a whole bunch of words to capture this meaning, what would you say?
What do you mean?
So I'll go ahead and give this example. So for woe, I would probably say that it means to remain in a specific place for a prolonged period of time.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also the transitive meaning, like, you know, to put or to place. And that means like to make something remain in a specific place for a prolonged period of time. So it has something to do with the location of a thing. It has something to do with it being there for a long time, not just temporarily. Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of what it means, but there's no single English word that means that. Abide is probably the closest, actually, the English word abide, which nobody uses. That's really restricted to literature at this point. So yeah, something like that. But it's a good translation. The dove landed on the platform.
All right.
Okay.
Semetwe je entof Pepe Christos. So I guess they think that he's the Christ.
Yeah, they think that he is the Christ. Why do we say entof pe Christos and not just semewe je pe Christos pe? Why do we have the intulf in here? How does that change the meaning slightly?
It gives like a pronoun that he.
It does, but we actually already have that. If I said pe Christos pe, that would already have the he in it. That would mean he is the Christ. So if we add the intulf, we're actually adding another pronoun.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So I guess, wait, maybe I think I confuse emo and into a lot, but I think maybe this is the subject marker.
It is, yeah. It's called the independent pronoun, and it's generally used as the subject of nominal sentences. But you, in the case of the third person, like intolf pe Christos, you don't actually need the independent pronoun. You can just say pe Christos pe, he is the Christ. In the second and first person, you need the independent pronoun. Like if I were to say, you are the Christ, I would say entolk pe Christos, or I think you can say entolk pe Christos, which Lambden does later in this exercise, but seems kind of weird to me. But anyway, in the first and second person, you need the independent pronoun. In the third person, you actually don't need it. So when you have it, it's like added emphasis. So they think that he is the Christ, as opposed to some other guy that we might be talking about. They know that there is a Christ, he's here somewhere, and they think that it's that guy, as opposed to Semeweje pe Christos pe, they think he is the Christ, where it's saying something about him. The theme in that case is he, and the ream is the Christ. So he is the Christ. We're saying something about him. In this case, where we have intolf added in there, it's saying something about who we think the Christ is. So the theme is someone is the Christ, and the ream is it's that guy, him right there. So they think that he himself is the Christ. Slight bit of nuance. A lot of times Egyptologists will translate this with a cleft sentence. So they'll say, they think that it is he who is the Christ. So we can kind of split the subject and predicate into these two clauses. It is he who is the Christ. That's a way of kind of illustrating that we're emphasizing this person, him, and not the predicate. But yeah, it's just a bit of nuance. We'll see lots more examples of it. What about 37?
Okay. Inte sån an ens high. So you don't know how to write
Yeah, and so you say you.
because
Tell me a little more about that.
feminine singular.
Yeah, good. So if we look at, I've opened too many things since then, I can't really find. If we look at this chart of pronouns at the beginning of lesson 18 in Lambda, there's a pretty nice pattern here where like first and second person tend to have this T at the beginning. So T rime, I am weeping, ten rime, we are weeping. So the N is really the suffix pronoun placed onto this T base. So, you know, TI is first person singular, TN is first person plural. And then te for second person feminine makes perfect sense in that context because it's just the te base plus a glottal stop. So te rime. So it's just written te. I feel like it's, sorry, it's syllabus. I feel like it's a little confusing here because we don't have it in that nice table to compare to the other things to see what it is. So when you see it like this in the wild, it can be hard to pick up on, but you're correct. It is the second person feminine. And it just takes a lot of practice before you can recognize it out here by itself. So well done. So you do not know how to write, or you do not know writing. Any questions about this sentence?
Would that be a question as well? Like if we put different punctuation at the end?
Yeah. Yeah, any Coptic sentence can be turned into a question by just adding a question mark.
Right. So You don't know how to
And
write.
that's,
You don't know how to write. Like I can do it in English with the inflection.
yeah, there is that. The other way that Coptic might do that, especially Bohairic Coptic would do this, is to make it a second tense. So
Right.
in the first present, that becomes etesoen on NS high. So you just put a little vowel at the beginning, and it's really easy to comprehend because it kind of reminds me of like, you know, the stereotype of Canadians always saying a. It's kind of like that. It's like you just put an a at the beginning,
You don't know how
and
to
it
write,
makes
eh?
it. Yeah, exactly. It's so intuitive, but it's actually the second tense, and it's like emphasizing the predicate or emphasizing the adverbial adjunct or whatever the second tense does. That's often used to frame an affirmative statement as a question. Yeah. Anyway. Okay, good question, Ralph. Good question about questions. We don't talk enough about questions, actually. You're up next, if you want to read these three.
Okay. Epitima now at neonobe. Oh, that's right. Epitima is Greek, so rebuke them on account of their sentence.
Yeah. What told you that epitima was Greek?
Because it starts with epi, and
Yeah, because it's a clip.
I mean it's in the vocabulary as one of the special Greek words.
To be honest, that's logical.
Yes.
It is.
Well,
Yeah.
epi is confusing because of course it's a very common prefix in Coptic as well, and p could see the definite article, but then it's weird to have a word that starts with iota. So itima wouldn't be a Coptic word, so I wouldn't expect it to be itma.
Yeah.
So then I
So
go
in
looking for
Saidic,
Greek
it's
words
more
that
obvious.
start with epi.
Yeah. In Bohairic, it's less obvious actually because there is the p article is much more frequently used in Bohairic. So all we have to do actually to this,
Epitima.
this could be, yeah, this could be to the
Epitime.
village.
There you go.
Wait, it would be timi in Bohairic, and it would actually be written this way. But we don't have to change that much to make it a Coptic prepositional phrase. But you're right. I mean, you could say like, you know this word in Greek. Also, it would be like a valid answer. Like if you recognize the vocabulary item, you can shortcut your search because it's like, oh, I know this.
Yeah.
It's
If you actually know the word,
epi
that's
tithemi.
fine. I had forgotten this one, so I did have to look it up, and then I often go through the thing I just described where it's like, well, is the ep a Coptic prefix? Well, the thing after it doesn't look like a Coptic word, so it's probably epi something. So I look for it in the Greek dictionary.
I would argue that perhaps even without realizing it, it's this final alpha that makes it look the most non-Egyptian.
Right.
Very, very rare for native Egyptian words to have a final alpha like this. And I'm told in the previous class, I asked this question, and people who know ancient Greek much better than I do said it would be epitimao, would be the imperative form of epitithemi, to put upon. Yeah, and I have to take their word for it because I just don't have the paradigm, the full paradigm of the me type verbs memorized anymore. I'm sure I memorized it at some point to pass an exam, but yeah, whatever. So anyway, okay, so rebuke them because of their sins. Yeah, they are weird. The me verbs, ugh, terrible. Okay, 39.
Tenkiosit ebo, hetef impeho etimao. So kiosit is, oh, that's a weird one. That's like the pay attention to one. But kiosit ebol is like look out or something.
Yeah, like expect also.
Okay, expect hetef after it or towards it.
Before it.
Before it. Right, hate, okay. So we look out before it on Beho Demao on that day. So it's like we're looking out for that day. We're anticipating that day.
Yeah, we are anticipating that day is what it means. And then you've correctly understood that this object of the preposition and this noun phrase are actually meant to be one and the same. Why did you do it that way? Why did you understand it that way?
Well, so HF has to take a pronominal suffix, but there's no reference for that yet in the sentence, so they have to stick something on the end. And so you stick it after the M to sort of genitivize the noun phrase, the day which is there.
Yeah,
That day.
that's exactly it. Yeah, so it's just very commonly the case that you have these pre-pronominal prepositions that demand some kind of suffix. And then if you want to use a noun, you have to put the corresponding pronoun in and then repeat it with the noun, just as it's done here. That's really common.
And you have to say hate,
it's really
because
common
that's
in
part of the
Coptic
verb,
text.
really, like you're saying, Kyo said Ebol hate something. And so if you want to get that sense of having the hate affecting what the verb means, then you have to use the suffix pronoun.
Yeah, I'm not totally sure about that, honestly.
Yeah.
That's what I think too. But as we were looking at it, I questioned that because there is the word hey. Like if it doesn't have a suffix pronoun, it's just hey. So why couldn't you say Pinchoshet evol hey empeho etemal? It just doesn't make sense that way. And I think it's just because this combination, HTF, has been kind of like locked in with that meaning where it's no longer being like analyzed and no one is saying like, you know, this is the pre-pronominal form of the noun, but there's also an absolute form of the noun and we can just use the absolute form and leave out the pronoun. No one's doing that because this is just kind of locked in that way. So yeah. I don't know if I challenged what you said or just agreed with what you said, but I'm kind of just thinking out loud about it, honestly. I don't know.
I think you agreed, but you didn't understand why you agreed.
Oh, okay. That's fair. I like that way, actually. I'd rather be ignorantly agreeable than knowledgeably disagreeable. I think that distinguishes me from all my academic colleagues, actually. Some self-reflection, opportunity for self-reflection there, but no time. Let's go to number 40.
Right. Impef wosh nestewe. So impef wosh, he didn't want, that's the negative past, to and nestewe, so we'd expect an infinitive, and nestewe doesn't look like a Greek word, but is too fast.
It is, yeah. It is. It doesn't look like it, obviously. He didn't want to fast. And who does? Okay, good job, Ralph. Hytham, do you want to do 3 of these? Oh, we're getting a chat. I think that's probably from Hytham. Okay, totally fine. Eric, would you like to do 3?
Sure, I'll give it a try. So let's see, 41. Apepneuma, I guess you use the Greek pronunciation. I think that's what that's for, pneuma, spirit.
Yep. Yeah, and this overline is nomen sacrum, which is like all the holy words get abbreviated, and then you're supposed to mentally expand them. So yeah, you said it correctly.
The Spirit of the Lord, I guess then, or the Holy Spirit. Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
A episet ejoph, and I'm hoping 39 will help me out with this. En tehe en u keroompe, because the F confused me here, but I'm hoping there's no he. So the Holy Spirit.
There is a he.
Uh-oh.
It's Jesus, Eric. The he is Jesus.
The Holy Spirit. Okay, the Holy Spirit in the manner of a dove. So I'm stuck. Came is simple. It's the episet ejoph that got me. So it came down upon him. Is that right?
Yep. That's it. That's exactly it.
I didn't have any, I didn't see what the hymn was coming from, and I thought maybe it was now resuming the prepositional phrase as it did in 39, but I guess not. So the Holy Spirit came down upon him.
Yeah, then it would have to be came down upon the manner of a dove, which just doesn't make sense to me. I'm sure there's a way to make it make sense. Right. It's just a lack
and the
of
genders
imagination
don't
on my
match,
part.
right?
But there's
hey is feminine.
Right, I got
Yeah,
it.
te is feminine, so it would have to be ejos for that to work. And then you also have the fact that there is egen, right? Egen exists and is regularly used with nouns. And that's just one of those things where, like, I always tell people it's so hard to recognize names when you're learning a foreign language, because normally the way that you tell a name is you notice that it isn't any word that you know. But if you only know 100 words, then it's like everything isn't a word you know. So you can never tell when something is a name or not. And this is kind of like that too. Like,
yeah, this makes more sense. I got it upon him. I just couldn't find the him in a preceding. It's out of context.
yeah.
So 42, this is copula construction, nine and chaje, entapsai, emo, hem, pejome. So nine is these are, and jaje, the words, and then a relative, I guess a past relative, entapsai, these are the words that he wrote, emau, pejome, on the mountain in the book.
Very good. Everything is right except for, well, for one thing, the word for mountain is actually toe. So that's like
on that day, on that, no, emau, there on the emau.
that would be emau. You're on the right track. That would be this emau is the adverb that means there. And you could find it spelt this way in a Coptic text because the correspondence between the alpha and the omicron is still very strong. So you could have a variant spelling like this that would be emau, but in this case, it is the emmal is the pre-pronominal form of the direct object marker.
So to them.
Yeah.
Wrote to them. Yeah, totally. Oh, sorry. Yeah, okay.
These are the words which he wrote them in the book. So it's the resumptive pronoun for the words.
Got it. Yeah,
so you have to repeat the pronoun in relative clauses.
Okay, right, perfect. Yeah, I'd missed that totally. It's normally I confuse the glory and the plural sheep and all that, but here I was totally off.
Those things are, yeah, I was about to say, don't we all? Well said, Ralph. Yeah, Coptic has a lot of different words that end up being spelled the same once they get all in their final forms. That's just the story of learning Coptic. Is just really with experience of reading, you kind of learn to subconsciously guess which is the proper word in that context. So yeah, it's not just you, I promise. It's just Coptic. Anyway, and this also, you mentioned that this is a copular sentence, and I'm glad you mentioned that because this is a good example of a real life copular sentence. So all the examples you get in the book in that chapter are so annoying because they're all these little like silly examples like umetoi pepayot, my father is a soldier, like sentences that no one really says in real life or almost never. This is a real copular sentence, right? These are the words which he wrote them in the book. Like it's gonna be, we have this huge noun phrase at the end. These are this huge thing. That's a more realistic copular sentence than the examples you get in previous chapters. So yeah, good catch with that.
Can I ask about predicate, subject and predicate? And maybe that's not the way to think about these sentences. Is it these are the words, or is it the words that he wrote are these? Or does
it is the latter. And it's a good point. There's no fixed answer. You can say these are the words which he wrote in the book, and that's really what we would always say in English. But the predicate might be these, like we're pointing to these are the words which he wrote in the book. The words which he wrote in the book, we both know that he wrote some words in the book. These are them, which is actually a different sentence from showing you some words and saying these are the words which he wrote in the book, because then which he wrote in the book is like weirdly explanatory information that no one asked for. I mean, the words written in a book, why do I have to say that? So yeah, it's actually, this is the predicate. Naina, it is, they are them, namely the words which he wrote them in the book.
Okay.
Yeah, good question.
And that is the way to think about these sentences as subject and predicate. I'm getting confused from Middle Egyptian with nominal slots and topics and theme and
Theme and
ream.
ream.
That.
Theme and ream. Yeah, that is subject and predicate is valid. Although it gets kind of dicey sometimes in Coptic because things get really mushed together. But theme and ream is definitely still valid. And it is, people will disagree about this because of course they will, but the distinguishing between subject and predicate and theme and ream is the primary purpose of the second tense in Coptic, just like the emphatics in Middle Egyptian.
So
Yeah.
That's not a pertinent analysis for this sentence.
It is a very pertinent analysis.
The
Yeah.
theme is the
It is.
word. Is that right?
Yes, the words which he wrote in the book are the theme, and the ream is these are them.
Okay, great. Thank you. That helps me.
Yeah, good questions.
43. N10 so'uen on N and shaje N. And that's David, but I don't know how to pronounce it. David? David? I think
Dawid,
that's,
I think.
I'm sorry?
Dawid.
Okay, David. Okay. So this is a you plural. You did not know. It's an N on construction.
Hang on.
The words N should jaje of David. You did not know the words of David.
Let's check that pronoun real quick. I know it's confusing because there's a T.
Oh, did I get that wrong? And oh, we. Ooh.
You got it wrong, but in a very understandable way. So there's a T on it, but there's a T on it, right? Like the T is part of the form sometimes.
Gosh. Okay.
So,
yeah, I see it now. Yeah. And then the N is part of the N on construction, the negative.
That's right.
Oof, missed it. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. It's that's a very reasonable mistake to make because thus far you've always had 10 means you plural, and this is really the first time where we just throw a wrench in that whole very reliable suffix pronoun system because T is, it's the base on which the suffix pronoun sits in the subject pronoun set, which goes with the first present. So T, ek, te.
Yeah, it didn't fit with the paradigm. I was sort of putting the square peg in a round hole there. It was not quite right. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, good stuff. And this word, I always pronounce it Sawen.
Oh.
Sawen. Every single person who's read this word today in all three classes has kind of stumbled over it a little bit. But I think this is one, you always have a choice in terms of what you do with Omicron Epsilon. But I think this is one where the answer is quite clearly
Great.
like Sawen. Like it's definitely W because you have this, it's at a syllable boundary. So yeah, anyway, minor point there. Okay. And did you do 3, Eric? Was that 3 just now?
I think so, yeah, but yeah.
Okay, cool.
I can, whatever.
You will get another chance when it comes back around. But right now is Mustafa.
Tison je entok pe pishere pnote. Tison I know you are the Son of God.
Yeah, good. I really have nothing to say about this except that I don't think this pad necessarily needs to be here. Entok pishere pnote also makes sense to me, but whatever. Okay.
Hon etipule avo automes. Hon they have approached into the gate and they close it. They
Yeah.
shut it down. I don't know.
Yeah, you could say they have approached the gate. So you can actually kind of collapse all of this into just direct object, like they approached the gate, or they drew near to the gate, or whatever you know, whatever translation you like, and they closed it, or and they shut it. Both perfectly valid.
Enes hem pian Enes hem they are not in home, or he actually it is not in home, something like that.
Yeah. What pronoun is this?
Actually, for let me say present, first present. Pronoun is third single.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it's the first present pronoun. It's the pronoun set that goes with the first present. So that's a little bit of like
Yeah.
a nuanced
Is
distinction. So the first present uses a set of pronouns called the subject pronouns, which is what I call them. I don't know if any Coptic book says that. That's just what I call them because that's what they're called in Late Egyptian, and they're the Coptic equivalent of the Late Egyptian subject pronouns. And the derivation is really obvious if you lay them all out. So yeah, it's the subject pronoun, which is my name for it, which maybe no one else uses, but it is the third person singular feminine pronoun. So it could be she is not in the house or it is not in the house. And what type of sentence is this, Mustafa? It can be a nominal sentence, an adjectival sentence, an adverbial sentence, or a verbal sentence.
actually adverbial.
Adverbial, why?
Because as I remember, adverbial sentences is in the class of non-verbal sentences, and
It is.
also its feature as something like always the subject in front at the beginning of the sentence, and
Yeah, good.
and maybe there's also something like it is all about a thing place, a thing's place, something like
Yeah,
it is
it can be.
there.
It could be
or
other
something
things. It could be like the
is,
things.
you are my son, he is my son, something like.
That's actually a nominal sentence, that example you just gave. But
UF, something like UF sa
oh,
I don't know.
yeah, because in Middle Egyptian you have to say M with a sentence like that, so it is actually a prepositional phrase. So you told me a number of reasons how you knew that it was an adverbial sentence. They're all correct. I have no criticism of any of those reasons. I would say that there's a difference between saying how you know what it is, like how you got your answer, and saying like what it is kind of in theory, like at its core on a grammatical level. In this case, I would say that it's an adverbial sentence because it is a sentence that is made up of subject plus prepositional phrase, which is grammatically equivalent to a sentence that is subject plus adverb. So she is in the house is equivalent to the sentence she is there, and there is an adverb, which means that hempei is an adverbial clause, which means that any sentence with subject plus prepositional phrase is grammatically an adverbial sentence because the prepositional phrase functions as an adverb. So there's a whole can of worms there. But the main thing I want to get across is your answer was totally right. but I think there's an alternative way of answering that question, which is saying, like, on a grammatical level, what determines what type of sentence this is, and in that case, it would be the prepositional phrase. And the thing I really want you to notice is that the negation of the adverbial sentence is exactly identical to the negation of the first present. And that's not an accident. Mustafa, you already know why, because it comes from the pseudo-verbal construction in Old and Middle Egyptian.
Actually, before the lesson, I've looked the Middle Egyptian pseudo-verbal constructions.
Nice. Yeah, so they're fresh in your mind. Yeah, for everyone who doesn't know what that means, which is probably most people listening, it's historically the first present construction is based on a prepositional phrase. It's called the pseudo-verbal because it's a kind of a verbal meaning, which is really a prepositional phrase grammatically. So it's something like this one would be we are upon knowing, or something, you know, some equivalent like of that. We are in knowing. This is an older way of expressing a verbal meaning using a prepositional phrase. So grammatically, it's an adverbial sentence. So the big takeaway here is that they are negated in exactly the same way, because grammatically speaking, they are the same construction at a deeper level. But if that doesn't make any sense, just trust me that I'll say that a lot more times until it starts to click. And the truth is, when I was learning Egyptian, it took me many years to sort of comprehend what was meant by, you know, grammatically an adverbial sentence because it has a prepositional phrase. That was definitely nonsense to me for some amount of time until it really clicked. So if it's nonsense to you, don't stress out about it, because it just kind of takes time. Anyway, okay, good job, Mustafa.
When I first see the pseudo-verbal, it's actually it's not it does not make sense to me. It's weird. Actually, it's different.
It takes some getting used to. There's that famous saying about math that's like, nobody understands math, you just get used to it. I think it's von Neumann or something. It's like a really famous mathematician who said that. And it kind of works for Egyptian grammar too, honestly. Like, nobody understands Middle Egyptian, you just get used to it. That's true. Unfortunately.
Just read it.
Yeah, you just learn to read it. You don't ever understand it. Anyway, that's kind of true. Moaz, do you want to read 47 through 49?
Sure. So the first one is Tensoen je unoch tetesvo, and that is, we know that Gray is teaching, or we know that his teaching is great.
Good. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Tina pot evol heto jaye. I will run away to the desert to flee them.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of hard to put this in, but you could say, like, I will flee before them to the desert. Hetu is literally like in front of them. Yeah, good translation. Okay, and 49.
Okay. Afko emate evol de afnestewe en shmon en ho. So he became hungry. He became very hungry because he fasted for 8 days.
Good. Yeah. He hungered a lot. Evolja is, you translate it because, which is correct. Evolja, he fasted for 8 days. Good. In the last class, we talked quite a bit about this word shmun. And it was an interesting conversation because it's an Egyptian city. El Ashmunain comes from this word shmun. It was originally Hermopolis. So that's the whole interesting topic. We talked about a lot of interesting things related to it, but I think we'll just leave it for now. It's the word 8. We're kind of running low on time, so I think I'll just move on. So Ralph, do you want to do 50 through 52?
Itpeu tekrea enheke Moshe insoi. Why does this poor widow, so pay this, Kera is a widow, and Heke, who is poor. Moshe insoi, why does she walk along behind me or after me?
Yeah, good. Exactly right.
Arke in Shaje min pameshe. He began to speak with the crowd.
Yeah. Can you tell me anything about this?
So archi is it's a Greek verb which means both to
How do you know?
begin and to rule. How do I know? I recognize this one.
Okay, that's fair. It's a valid answer.
I mean, it ends in e, which is common for Greek verbs.
Yeah, and
Greek
weird for
verbs in Coptic.
Yeah.
And also it comes after
oh,
ah,
it's called
so you expect it to be a
ashmun.
verb. Ashmun? Shmoon?
Thank you, Hytham. Egyptologists always call it El Ashmunain. Wait, am I thinking of something different?
Yeah,
Maybe I'm just.
There is also I saw that like Ashmunain in Wikipedia. I don't know it's true or false.
But today it's called Ashmun. Oh, Ashmun in the Delta. That's not it. Hang on. Sorry, Ralph, for
No worries.
interrupting. But I kind of want to button this up. This is
Munain.
This one. Yeah. I think it's this one, Hytham. I think that's a different city.
There's two cities.
Yeah. I've never heard of Ashmun in the Delta, and I've been to quite a few Delta cities and towns. But yeah, I mean, my knowledge is limited, obviously. Thanks, Hytham. Sorry, okay, Ralph, you're saying archi is a known Greek verb. It ends in iota, which is really rare for Coptic verbs, common for Greek verbs. And then this thing too.
The kai is rare, and it's usually in Coptic loanwords, right?
Yeah, you almost only see it in Coptic loanwords, except in Bohairic, where you see it much more often as an aspirated K.
Like Kera and the like Tekera above. It's also Greek.
Yeah.
Ends in an alpha, starts with a chi, must be Greek.
Yep. Dead giveaway that is Greek. Anyway, so yeah, good call on that. And I think you have one more coming to you if you want to.
Yep. Afkote and enhekeabol. He turned away the poor. So koteabol is to turn away. Af is the simple past. And then what did he turn away? He turned away in Heka, the poor people.
Yeah, very good. Excellent analysis. I feel like I've got everyone like on their toes because I always like I ask you to translate and then I hit you with some weird analysis question. I love it. I'm not apologizing. Eric, do you want to take 53 through 55?
Sure, 53. Tesoen emok, entok pe diabolos. I know you are the devil.
Yes, something you very commonly say to your fellow man.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I talked about this last time. No, that obviously a joke. You shouldn't tell people that. But in this case, we have. Wait, what was it? Okay, so this entok pe implies that the you is emphasized. So I know you are the devil, which is thought to be the case, but I don't know. I'll have to look at the original quote in the New Testament to see if it's actually framed this way. But if it is, it serves as a really useful counterexample to that argument, because in this situation where Jesus goes into the desert for 40 days and encounters the devil, it's just him and the devil. And in fact, they never interact with anyone else. So like for all we know, anybody watching Jesus in that scene might not have been able to see the devil. He might have been visible only to Jesus. So the devil is literally the only other person there and might not even be physically there. So for this to be an emphasis of you as opposed to someone else makes no sense. There's no one else to distinguish it from. There's only one other person there, and he's the person talking. So yeah, interesting possible counterexample to that analysis. Anyway, okay, sorry about that.
Let's see. Before et feu keperadse emoi en tihe. Et feu is why, and then a Greek verb. Do you tempt emoi me he tehie in this way? Why do you tempt me in this way?
Yeah. Excellent, excellent translation. You can say, why do you tempt me so?
I'm hoping this is an adverbial sentence because I wasn't quite sure.
It is.
And
well done. I was going to ask.
Okay, good. And sem pefkote on. So they, and I hope the se here is the third person plural. They are not in
is
neighborhood. They are not.
Yeah.
Close. Yeah. Oh, good. And it's
excellent.
En on.
And it's en on negation. It's an adverbial sentence. The se is the what I call the subject pronoun, third person plural. In his, I forget the word you used, but vicinity, environs, surroundings, neighborhood, something like that. Yeah, excellent. A+ analysis, Eric. Well done. Okay, and unless there are questions about the previous three, Mustafa, can you read these last three for us?
Yeah, why not? Tetnason je entire nai et beteuten. Teten you will know. You
yeah, that's correct. You have to add an N because it's teten na so on, but then there's just one N. So you will know.
You will know entire night. You will know, and actually entire is the second perfect or
it could be
entire night et be about you. Let me entire which I don't know. Actually, it's a little confusing.
This is the verb, and it's the full. Oops, sorry. The full form is ire, ed,
Yeah.
Oh.
You will know what you will know about what I did, something like about you. You will know what did I about you. I don't know.
You will know je, that, and then you said that this is the second past, and it could be, but it could also be the relative past, which is what it is in this case. So you will know what I did them because of you. So you will know what I did because of you.
Yeah.
You will know that what I did is because of you.
Yeah.
Or you will know what I did on your account. Both translations are fine. Anyway, okay, let's go on to the next one.
Okay. Tina op and Joe et hen temro. I am counting ships which those are in the shore, in the harbor. Yeah. Good. In the harbor.
Yeah. This verb real quick, can you translate that for me again?
Counting.
Yeah, tina op. Translate the whole thing.
I count. I am counting.
Not am counting.
Actually, I will count.
Yeah, that's it. I will count the ships in the harbor. Good. All right. Well done, Mustafa. And 58.
Yeah. Enteren ovoş ebol. Aukoten epaho epenhe. Enteren, when we want to go away, they Aukoten, actually they finish, not finish. Aukot, they turn into our our house or something.
Yeah, this is epahu is back.
Yeah, they turn back to our house.
Yeah, they turn. So this is from Kote. Al Koten, they turn us back to our house.
To our house, yeah.
Does that make sense? Okay, good.
Yeah.
So when we wanted to go out, they turned us back to our house. One thing I just want to note here is that for translating the temporal, in this case, we translated it as when we wanted to go out. If this verb were present tense, we would translate the temporal when we want to go out. So we choose the tense of the temporal construction based on the main clause. And that's because the temporal is actually unmarked for time. It only has relative time. So all it tells us is that the events of this clause are exactly simultaneous with the events of this clause, but they don't actually tell us when, past, present, or future. So it has no absolute tense. It's just like a minor note on that. And you'll get used to seeing that. It'll become natural with practice to not define the tense of verbs that are unspecified with regard to tense. Okay, and then the last thing that we need to do is just run through lesson 19. So all we're doing in lesson 19 is adding the relative forms of the first present and first future. So we learned the first present and first future last time. It's the forms like, di sodem, I am hearing, or dina sodem, I will hear. We're just learning how to do the relative. So et is the most common thing that you will see. There's also eta, which when I first looked at it last class, I was like, wait, eta is not used with the first present, but it actually is. It's on the next page. It's used with the negative. So we'll get to that in a second. But basically, et is really the relative pronoun that you expect to see. And that makes sense because that's the relative pronoun that you use with adverbial relative clauses too. So for instance, prome et hempe, the man who is in the house, uses the same word et as prome et rime, the man who is weeping. So here's a few examples. Net sotem enas shadje. Still so hard for me to say shadje. I really want to say sadje. Net sotem enas shadje. Those who listen to my words. Ematoi et na amahte emof. The soldiers who will seize him. And in Rome et na ine impat. The men who will bring the silver. So yeah, you can see how that construction works. The key thing to note here is this bewildering sentence. So I'll tell you what Lambden says. He says, when the relative pronoun is the subject of the relative clause, no further pronominal subject element is required. So that seems really bewildering when you first read it because it's, I don't know, it seems complicated to me. It's a complicated sentence. But the key distinction here is that in the other verb tenses you've seen with the relative, you still repeat the pronoun, even if it's the same as the antecedent. So if I were to say here, sorry, Coptic, keep hitting the wrong key. There we go. I will know that what I did is for y'all, or whatever, what I did is because of y'all. Tina soen je entai eranai at beteoten. So we have to repeat the E here, even if they're identical. I'm just going to change that back real quick so I don't mess up our questions and answers. In the first present, in the relative of the first present, you don't have to do that. You can just leave this place blank if the subject is the same. So prome et rime, it is the man who is crying. The man is also the subject of this verb. So you don't have to put any kind of pronoun. When the subject is different, you do put a pronoun. So eti, which I, etek, which you, etc. It's just et plus the subject pronouns, although you'll see that the T is not repeated. Oh, and it's different. It is different because it's etu, not etse. You wouldn't say etse, you say etu. So they are different pronouns, but they're roughly similar. It's just et plus the suffix pronoun. Yeah, that's actually the derivation. Sorry about that. I said it wrong before. Okay, so in Shaje etis hayamo, the words which I wrote them. This one's really easy to comprehend because it's very obvious that the subject of I wrote is different from the words. It's the words which I wrote them. They're the object. Prome etek shine and sof, the man whom you asked after. So the man whom you asked after him, the man whom you are seeking. It's really clear that these are two different nouns. There's the man and then there's you. Tepolis etu woch and hetus, the city which they dwell in it. Again, two totally different nouns. Here's where it gets complicated. So beshere etef nakaaf and sof. So because there is an F here, that tells us that this third masculine singular subject is a different noun from the third masculine singular antecedent. There are two third masculine singular things happening here. So there is the son, and there is he will leave him behind him. So the son whom he will leave behind him, the son is actually this F, it's the object, and the subject F must be a different man. So his father, presumably, right? So yeah, because there is a pronoun, yeah.
Your charge is gone.
What's that?
Actually, your battery is gone. It's about to finish.
Oh, did it say that on the screen?
Yeah.
Are you sure it's not your battery, Mustafa? Because I have 28%. What's your battery at?
Yeah. Actually, 100.
Okay, well, I don't know then. I don't know. I just plugged it in. So anyway, okay, so this is just a key thing to notice and get used to. It gets easy with reading. You get used to it, and it's actually really intuitive, but I have to point it out to you for when we do the exercises because it will be confusing at first, I promise. Okay, so that's all the examples in the affirmative that we're going to look at. In the negative, in Rome, ete insasotum naian, so the men whom they will not, they do not listen to me. So the negative is just, it's a totally different construction, really. It works differently. It uses ete, and then it uses the whole first present, negated first present. It just plugs it in there. So that's worth noting, that the affirmative and negative are so markedly different. But it's also pretty easy to comprehend. So with the affirmative, we have this relative construction that is its own thing, kind of like the past relative construction. With the negative, we just put eta and we just like plunk the whole negated first present or negated first future into that space. So yeah, look at a few examples of that. I think they'll become pretty intuitive. 19.2 is just this minor note about reflexive pronouns. So I nojet epicate epka, I threw myself down to the earth. So the object of a verb can be the same as the subject of the verb, and then it's just reflexive. It's just like it is in English or really any other language I've ever seen. So I don't think it's all that confusing. But one more example, af yaaf hemp mo impiero, he washed himself in the water of the river. Yeah, literally, he washed him. Once we get enough reading practice, it's actually really easy to catch when something is a reflexive object or when it's a different person. But there are some times when it's ambiguous. And obviously we'll note those when they arise. Okay, so compound verbs, which you've already seen plenty of examples before, they're not confusing. Infinitives of the type sotep. So Lambden has been giving us verbal infinitives gradually. He splits them across multiple chapters and he groups them by types. And where this becomes useful, so Christian kindly made this Coptic paradigm cheat sheet. And you'll see that the type that we're looking at right now, the sotem or sotep type, is this one here. And you can see that they follow a pretty regular pattern. So sotem, setem, satem. So the prenominal is setem, the prepronominal is satem. If there is a qualitative, which we haven't learned about yet, it will be with omicron normally. There's a slight wrinkle to this, which is, well, actually there's a couple wrinkles in here. Let's look at this example first. So this is omega, epsilon, but then alpha, and that's because it's adjacent to a guttural consonant. So when in the prepronominal form, when this vowel is adjacent to a guttural consonant like H or high, or probably some others, I don't know, glottal stop, it won't change into an omicron because the vowel shift is prevented by that guttural consonant. So it's just a slight variance in the way it's written. And then in this one, I said there were two variations. So there's this one, which we just saw, guttural consonant stays as alpha. And then there's also this rule, which is that omega changes to omicron epsilon. So O changes to U in the presence of a nasal consonant. So because this word begins with N, we have the omega changing to an U. So yeah, two things going on there. In all the other places, just one thing happening. Although this is weird. It's omicron, but alpha right there. Who knows? Languages are messy, but generally that's true. Okay, so this is a good verb paradigm. There are lots of verbs that take this form. And where this is really useful is if you see a weird pre-pronominal form and you want to look it up in the dictionary, you have to look up this form. You have to look up the absolute form. This doesn't matter so much for verbs of this pattern, but it matters a lot once you get to verbs of less predictable patterns. So if you see something like mer, you have to recognize that that's probably the qualitative of a middle weak type verb, and then you have to look it up by, you would look up mor, M-O-R, but then because of this rule that O next to nasal changes to U, and there's an M at the beginning, it's M-O-U-R. So yeah, that's a lot of stuff at the same time. Good luck parsing through all of that. I'll repeat all of it at another opportunity, so you'll have plenty of chance to learn it. And that's all for this lesson. You know, we'll have our exercises. I'll put them in the Google Sheet before the end of the day today. Are there any questions about lesson 19? It seems like no. So I will stop sharing so I can see all your lovely faces. And I will see you all next week.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone.